Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Mindful Crime Couture. I'm happy to be here with you today. In fact, it was so urgent that I am in the backstage area of my other job just so that I could quickly record this video and get it out. As always, if you want to know more about my sources or more about my credentialing, you can check out the description box below. But it was imperative that I wanted to talk about Harvey Adelson because we have now a statement on the record from him. During Donna's sentencing, he made a statement for the first time about this. So I wanted to go through that because Harvey, probably more so than Wendy even, people have speculation that Harvey just didn't know what was going on or didn't know that this was going to happen, that it was a complete surprise to him or that it was kept from him. There is some good evidence for Harvey in the wiretap evidence because sometimes Donna and Charlie do say, like, I'm not telling dad about this, or let's not tell dad. But I have always felt that Harvey was just as involved in knowing and having forethought in this murder, and that he was just as much able to stop it from occurring. So in order for me to explain my thinking process on this, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about practicing as a therapist. And a lot of times people are seeking treatment for having a narcissistic parent. And if they are with a narcissistic parent and they have another parent living in the household who has not left that situation, they oftentimes, just for the first time in treatment, discovering that they have some issues with that parent who they may have thought of as the safer parent as well. So in the Adelson family, Donna is definitely the narcissistic mother. And if you want to go back, I have done a couple of videos about the family dynamic and the enmeshment inside of the Adelson family. And so I'm going to link those below. But it is important to realize that, and what often happens in treatment is that people who are seeking treatment after being raised by a narcissistic parent and then who had another parent in the household realize that other parent had a lot more agency and control than they ever thought before. They really thought maybe that their other parent was just as victimized as them. And can they be a victim? Absolutely. But as the other adult in the household, they do have agency that the child does not have. They could possibly get a divorce or set boundaries, refuse to go along always with the narcissist. So oftentimes you have the narcissistic parent who is the loud toxicity in the home, and then the other parent is the enabler of that parent because they are the model for the children of how to get along. They are the perfect example of let's not make the dysfunctional parent mad, and this is how we do that. This is how, we keep mom happy. Oftentimes, people think of this parent as a martyr because they have spent so much time with the narcissist and they must love them so much and they're still with them. But oftentimes that is also an ego boost for that other parent because they are getting positive attention. So oftentimes when I am treating clients, they might even come to you a few sessions into treatment and say, my gosh, was my other parent a narcissist as well? Sure, of course, that's possible. But typically what I see is that they are an enabler and that they are very covert in their tactics of keeping that dysfunctional parent happy or keeping their dysfunctional spouse happy to get along. They are just not the same as a child living in the household because they have agency and they have control and they have power. They just chose not to use it. The toxic parent is allowed to run rampant and the other parent is teaching submission, self-diminishment, rather than setting a boundary and asserting oneself. Oftentimes, the other parent is consumed with their own projects. Possibly this could have been, with Harvey, he had his own business. So he had to be consumed with being the wage earner and running his own business. He didn't really have to pay as much attention to how Donna was choosing to raise their children. And the other common dynamic that you see with a narcissistic parent and the other parent still being in the relationship is that they are codependent. And I definitely think that you see some of that with Harvey and Donna. Even with the way that Harvey reacts on video when Donna is arrested, he begins this strange dynamic of just repeating everything that she says and even saying things as if he is Donna himself, using her pronoun, speaking for her. It's very strange.
Your cell phone? No, I don't want to give it to you. Why do I have to?
Because my attorney said not to.
Why do I have to give it to you? This is evidence. Evidence. She's under arrest. I have to go with you. I have to go. I have to look at you. Don't have that choice. Let me help you out. No, I have to stay. Please don't do it.
So this is the dynamic that I see between them, and these are the points in his statement that I want to highlight that I feel like go to evidence to my theory.
And respected officers of the court for allowing me to speak. I have been Donna Adelson's husband for over 50 years. My wife sacrificed everything so that she could pour her heart and soul into our children, our grandchildren, and our marriage. This summer was our 54th wedding anniversary, and I had to spend it without her, hand in mine. She has done nothing wrong.
Starting off strong with that, she has done nothing wrong, which interesting that he used the word nothing because typically phrases with all or nothing can tend to just be thrown out because of course she's done things wrong. We have all done things wrong. So it's a ridiculous statement to make, but it also immediately sets up that he wants to say she is the victim here. For the enabling parent, it is very important to perpetuate the myth that the narcissistic parent cannot be injured. And if they are injured, they are an ultimate victim and they deserve all of the sympathy, all of the praise, and all of the attention. So I also just want to highlight that Harvey was not someone who just went along. In Robert Adelson's testimony in Donna's trial, he does describe his mother as the one who is in charge the most in the relationship, but they never go into Harvey. And it is never shown that Harvey just has no clue what's going on within the family. In fact, I believe there's evidence to the opposite. For one, he was definitely involved in the ostracizing and cutting off of Robert during his years in residency. So Robert talks about this during the Over My Dead Body podcast, and this is the only media interview that Robert has ever done. Him and his wife both talk about the ordeal that they went through. I'm going to play a little bit of it.
Rob Adelson. Rob's in his mid-40s. He's a physician. And he's the only one of his immediate family that doesn't live in Florida. In part, that's because of something that happened more than a decade ago. At the time, Rob was doing his internship in Texas. He met someone and fell for her hard. But there was a problem.
After maybe about 8 or 9 months, he said he had something to tell me, that we had to talk, and I didn't really know what it was going to be.
The problem was Donna and Harvey.
And basically, he said that his parents just couldn't accept him being someone who wasn't Jewish and that he'd have to break up with me, that they literally said it's either her or them.
It was that simple. Haritha was not Jewish.
Huh, okay. And was that explicit?
Yes.
He was very close with his parents at the time. So we proceeded to break up and get back together and break up and get back together over the course of another year and a half.
For someone like me who, was extremely, probably overly close to my parents, pleasing them, mattered a lot.
All of this was happening at the worst possible time for Rob. He was in his residency, which is a notoriously draining, stressful process. Finally, his parents wore him down. He broke up with Haritha, and, well, he doesn't like to talk about what happened next.
Had my parents not put up multiple years of threatening to disown me, multiple years of angry, difficult phone calls, it never would have occurred.
He actually got engaged to someone else, a nice Jewish girl from Dallas. His parents were much happier with that relationship, but it didn't last.
I was very briefly married to someone else. I feel terrible for all the pain it caused anyone involved.
Days into the marriage, Rob decided he'd made a huge mistake.
There was a rapid, I believe, annulment.
Haritha took him back, and they got married. And Donna and Harvey, well, they were at the wedding.
They came around and told Rob, we've decided that it would be okay for you to be with her.
So we see and we hear from Rob, there were years of angry, difficult phone calls. And he's talking about, he says, my parents. He doesn't say my mom. And also, besides withholding their love, they were also withholding their finances and ability for him to get help from them financially while he was in residency. So Harvey was the one with the practice. He was the one making the money. Charlie wasn't a dentist yet. Donna had long since not been, gainfully employed. Of course, she helped out with the dental practice, but she was not the wage earner by any stretch of the imagination. So Harvey had to have been complicit in cutting Rob off financially. It was their money, but it was coming from his practice. Some other interesting information about Harvey, I believe, is that we hear that he basically is sort of bribing and strong-arming Charlie through dental school because Charlie had such terrible grades. And so Harvey used every single connection that he possibly could to try to drag Charlie through to graduation by the skin of his teeth. Pardon the pun. More evidence about Harvey being involved with the dealings are that he was selling his Lexus to Katie. We know that she either got a sweetheart of a deal or she got it completely for free from Harvey. So clearly he knew what was going on with that, as well as the paychecks that were coming out of his own business.
She has done nothing wrong, and yet is being punished for a crime that she did not commit. I thought we lived in a different kind of world, but I guess I was wrong.
He really thought he was doing something with that statement, right? He's like, I thought we lived in a different kind of world. Dramatic pause. But I guess I was wrong. As if anyone would even care that you feel disillusioned by this. For me, what he is saying there is he did think it was a different world. He did live in a world where he didn't have consequences. He hasn't ever had consequences. His children haven't ever had consequences. And he has helped them avoid having any sort of discomfort in their life, like failing out of dental school or, not getting the sweetheart custody arrangement that they wanted in their divorce.
I thought we lived in a different kind of world, but I guess I was wrong. I have listened, watched, and sat in the courtroom for the entire trial, and I could not help but scream in my mind by the witnesses that were brought forward by the prosecution who told outright lies. I didn't know that you could lie in a courtroom, but apparently you can. Danny's parents contend that they have never seen their grandchild. But for years they say they've never seen her. But Wendy has shared with me pictures and videos and letters from their visits.
So that next statement, I didn't know that you could lie in a courtroom, but apparently you, again, he is just high drama, thinking that this is some big, gotcha moment that is just ridiculous anyway. Like, you're a man of over 80 years old. You realize that people lie in courtrooms. But then right after he says people lie in courtrooms, who does he say lies in the courtroom? He then says the Markells, the parents, Phil and Ruth Markel. He says that they are lying. So his whole thing with that statement isn't necessarily, he's not first telling us, that the state has, cooked up these charges or whatever. He wants to talk about how he's pissed off that Ruth and Phil were able to make those statements saying that they haven't seen their grandchildren, because he cares about his image and Donna's image and Wendy's image. And that doesn't make them look good, frankly. And he knows that. So he has to get up and say they're liars. And not only does he have to get up and say they're liars, but he also has to toe the Adelson family party line, which is that Wendy is the golden child and Wendy does nothing wrong. And so he then says, Wendy has shared. And then there's a little pause there, right? Wendy has shared, meaning like it almost sounded like he was saying Wendy has shared these children with them. But he meant what he was saying was Wendy has shared videos and photographs and things from their visits. Well, first of all, I'm sorry, I don't want my visits with my family to be in front of and supervised and photographed and documented by my, ex-family, which clearly they are. As Phil said in one of his statements to the court after one of the trials, the visits are highly choreographed. They aren't genuine. There isn't time for them to be, real with their grandparents and for their grandparents to be able to be real with them, because they are being supervised by someone that the Markells believe was involved with murdering their son.
But Wendy has shared with me pictures and videos and letters from their visits. They have suffered immensely at the loss of their son, but they also contend to tell lies to the court about our grandchildren.
So this next statement is I just wanted to highlight that I'm annoyed by it, because he says, to me, it sounds so much like, sure, they're sad at the loss of their son, which is complete distancing language. Their son was murdered. They didn't lose their son. They didn't lose their son in any sort of way that the human brain can wrap their mind around. It is awful to lose a child in any way, but if it was a sickness or an accident or something like that, then it would be a different story. That would be the loss of their child. This is the murder of their child, and he uses that distancing language, which is interesting.
Donna has always been a loving and caring wife and is innocent of the charges. A biased judge and jury were influenced by years of one-sided news pieces and social media.
Then we have some usual Adelson blame shifting. How they love to blame shift. They're blameless. They are even sometimes cursed by the supernatural, according to Donna. Haunted by Dan Markel, cursed as a family. Here he says it's the biased judge and jury and all these one-sided media pieces, which is why I am sitting in the back room of this theater pumping this video out right now, because I know from Donna's statement and Harvey's statement and statements that Charlie has made on the phone with his parents that this is like the Super Bowl for people, that they don't like podcasters and they don't like bloggers and, internet personalities or the news talking about their family. And so that's why I'm here doing this. So I hope they're watching, the ones who are free.
All right, thank you for letting me continue. Donna did not participate in the heinous acts that she was convicted of doing. You are sending an innocent woman to prison.
We have even more blame shifting with you're sending an innocent woman to prison. He's talking directly to the judge. You are sending. No, Donna's actions are what sent her in front of a jury, and the jury said, you need to go to prison for this.
You have taken my wife, and you have taken my life as well.
Again, we just have more dramatic language with that last, you've taken my wife. Judge, you've taken my wife, and you've taken my life as well. And just the dramatics, and a word that isn't often used for men, but the histrionics of that is just beyond. I mean, we are at the sentencing of a murder trial for an actual murdered victim who was cut down in the prime of his life and, was lost to his family and his boys. And you are saying the judge is taking your life as an over 80-year-old man who has gotten to live his life however he wanted to, with the resources to live his life the way he wanted to for a very long time. I mean, cry me a river. So this statement, and for what?
And for what?
This is so telling to me because I feel like, and for what is truly what they think. That's truly how they think of Dan Markel to this day. And for what? Like, they believe that, this wasn't a crime for them to commit this murder. They believe that they are justified. They believe that, if you are going to punish anybody, the right people are in jail. And that does not even include Charlie. They believe that the hitmen are in jail. They're the ones who did it, not them. They shouldn't be punished.
This is not justice. It is vengeance, and it is wrong.
Okay, so on this last statement, this really got me into my fundamentalist Christian upbringing because the word vengeance is really not used a lot in the cultural milieu of today. Oh gosh, whenever I say a French word, I will say it wrong. So somebody's going to tell me in the comments that I should never say that word ever again. So I'm going to say the cultural zeitgeist. It is not in the cultural zeitgeist, vengeance. People are not talking about vengeance. It's a very old-timey word. And I guess Harvey is 80 years old plus. So, maybe that's just his age. But I got the feeling, biblical feelings from using that word. So, of course, I had to go back and look at some things from the Bible about vengeance. And I also wanted to do a little bit of research about vengeance within the Jewish faith as well as that's Harvey's religion and see what Judaism has to say about vengeance. So to my happiness, I found this video from Rabbi Sachs, who has an actual video saying, what is the difference between justice and vengeance? And I'm going to play you a little bit of this.
People confuse justice and vengeance. They think they are two words for roughly the same thing. They are nothing of the kind. Vengeance is an I-thou relationship. I have attacked you, so you attack me. Or I attack your family, so you attack my family. Vengeance is the Montagues and the Capulets, or the Corleones and the Tartaglias. It's my group against yours. That is revenge. Revenge is forbidden by biblical law. Thou shalt not take vengeance nor harbor a grudge, says the Lord in Leviticus chapter 19. It is absolutely forbidden. Families can continue a cycle of vengeance forever. Justice says that it is no longer me against you. It is both of us equally under the impartial verdict of the law. Justice takes the whole thing out of an I-thou relationship and elevates it to a completely impartial viewpoint in which we all stand equally under judgment.
So I thought so many things were interesting within that. The I versus thou idea of vengeance, whereas justice is about the cultural whole or societal whole, was very interesting. I also really thought that the Capulets versus Montagues was a great example. In my upbringing, I learned the verse from Deuteronomy that says, "Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, I will repay." And that was always, prescribed to people within the Christian faith to say, you should not be trying to get yours back from someone because the Lord is in charge of getting that vengeance for you when you are a believer. So I thought that was interesting that vengeance, him using vengeance, that struck that chord in me because I thought, okay, maybe he's saying, vengeance isn't human. We aren't supposed to get vengeance. So if Donna did do something wrong, she should be judged, by the Lord, not by humans. So I kind of thought that at first. But then after seeing Rabbi Sachs' video, I really started thinking about it as vengeance being personal. I versus thou. Who is the vengeance for? Well, I think the only other people that he really mentions in the video, the big people that he believes are victimizing the Adelsons, are the Markells. They want vengeance. The state, possibly, and the media. So those are the people seeking vengeance against the Adelsons and therefore Donna. So after thinking about it more and thinking about Rabbi Sachs' video, I really believe that the difference in this statement of the difference between vengeance and justice is that vengeance means that the Adelsons are the victim. And the Adelsons are not only the victims, but they are special because justice is served in a culture and a society, and justice is supposed to be blind. Justice is supposed to be equal. Justice means you're just like everybody else. And we all know they do not think they are like everybody else. Just really want to say thank you for being here. Thanks for stopping by my channel. I absolutely love comments and discourse. So if you will leave a comment, I'd like to start a dialogue with you about this case. Also, if you can like and share and subscribe, that's amazing as well. And I'll see you next time.